When we talk about an expenditure problem and that it's too much being spent, people are up in the air. We hear that rallies are held and millions are left behind to kind of placate the crowds. Is it an expenditure problem that you see? Could you literally say the money that you spend, take it and put it into schools, take it and put it into healthcare? We don't need to see it flying around.
Of course you would, and I'm trying to put that conversation in context where you say, let's look at our debt. Mm-hmm. Because we've already said that out of this 4 trillion plus budget, possibly half of that is going to repay debt.
Yes.
And then another large chunk of that is going to pay salaries. And so our development space is almost non-existent. Mm-hmm. So even this money for dishing out is possibly borrowed money. Mm-hmm. So really, the question is, are we borrowing to steal? And the IMF, the IMF is not a saint. The IMF has its own interests, and countries that go into the IMF program without a clear agenda suffer. And Kenya is one of those. And I think what Nyakara really crystallized is that we lost our vision. Mm-hmm. Which was a very simple vision 2030. Let's do a few significant projects that will stimulate growth. Instead, since 2012, because in 2012 our debt ceiling then was 600 billion. Mm. Yeah. In 2013, 2015, it was increased to 1.2 trillion. And then again, in that period to 2.5 trillion, 2019, 9 trillion, 2022, 10 trillion. Hey, these trillions are beginning to sound like,
all approved by Parliament.
All approved by
Yes.
Parliament. Mm-hmm. And the question then becomes, in the Kibaki era, there were mistakes done around corruption, but Kenyans were feeling the economy. Kenyans were feeling the growth. Small businesses were thriving. Mm-hmm. Since 2013, the expansionary policies of the Uhuru Ruto regime, the Uhuru regime after 2017 to the Ruto regime now, Kenyans are feeling the pinch. Mm-hmm. Revenues are falling. Cost of living is going up. Kenya business contribution is going down, so we are deindustrializing. So what is this mismatch? The mismatch is where the money is going. Mm-hmm. The fact that money is being borrowed expensively and then is being put in non-productive projects. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, we know that. The question is, what are we going to do about it? Isn't it?
It is.
Is it that we don't know? Or is it that we need to... how do we drive that agenda? So one of the things I think that civil society did is they lit a fire in their engagements. I've had this in the with Bajeti Hub, the Okoa Uchumi Coalition, pressed the IMF to prioritize corruption. To say you can't keep lending when this money you're lending to steal. So the IMF now have put their foot down and said, unless these corruption issues are addressed, we are not lending. So that's one way you begin to squeeze the taps. But what are the other avenues that we need to invoke so that we can put pressure on an irresponsible government?
Well, I mean, when you look at things like actually fighting corruption from within, that you can talk about policies that need to be insisted on by, financial institutions like the World Bank and the IMF. I mean, I have my own conversation about why we're even still pandering to the whims of these international organizations. But that's a whole conversation for another day. But in this place where you're already caught in the thicket of borrowing over and over again. But the thing is that the trend does not change.
True.
It is very clear that money that had been borrowed that may have been misused did not start in 2026.
Yes.
That it has been a trend over time. So you want to ask yourself the question, you see what has been done with it before, or in this case, not been done with it. And something as simple as having a public debt register actually public, to see where the money went, is a practice that people have chosen not to dabble in. So when you say that we ask you this time around to be prudent about your public finance management and tell us exactly what's going on, that's great outside. But one of the things that you can be sure as day, perception is reality. If people in Kenya can actually see that corruption is punished, it is a precedent-setting activity, that it is actually punished, and not these fly-by-night activities that we see where somebody has been arrested and then after that, they're let go and then the case is never heard of again. That if you actually see activity around punishing corruption, what that does is that it lets the people for who this perception is real, that, okay, we're actually doing something about it. And this is a society within which corruption is not just frowned upon, but is refused completely. But like I said, we're flirting with the idea of prosecuting and or punishing corruption, and you're never taking the girl home, essentially. You're not. You just want to say, oh yes, we're fighting corruption. But you're not. That at the very basic level, people know that I can divert how many million and I will get away with it.
Yeah. Because that's how it's been fashioned. That's how it's been played for a very long time. We keep on saying that we have all these agencies, we have all these officers that are there to fight corruption, but we're not even giving them the room to implement what it is they're supposed to do. So corruption for us, you look at even individuals who've been involved in corruption, what do? They're the same individuals who are cleared to run for office. So for us, corruption is a ticket item. It is a political tool to use during campaign period, but we never really sit down to ensure that we fight corruption. We will say nikiingia, nitahakikisha ufisadi imeisha, but that's where the conversation ends, because moving forward, the very same individuals who said they will fight corruption are the ones who find themselves participating in corruption.
Like, let me ask you something.
Ask.
Nyota Fund, this is World Bank money.
Yes.
Right?
It's a loan.
It's a loan. The idea, and hear me out, the idea of that, putting money in the hands of people who can actually start a business that would then, you hope it would be sustainable, is a good idea.
Yes.
But it has been used as a political tool.
It has.
Unfortunately, without remembering that this is money that you actually have to pay back. So you want to be sure that the people that you're giving this money to, you can manage those processes to ensure that you're setting up. It's not just giving them money.
Yeah.
We're looking at things that people like yourself, Wanjiru, have been fighting for the longest time. What are you doing to ensure that the environment is conducive for people to set up business in the first place?
True.
How many licenses does a smoky seller, for example, require to then be able to run within the city? How much are they spending from that 22,000 shillings that you're going to give them to ensure that they have the proper licenses, that if they're renting out a place that they've been able to set it up and set it up properly, the things that you're putting in as safeguards, what roadblocks are standing in the way from them having that done? It's cyclical in nature. So if you're not doing all of those things, that's why it makes it easy for you to use it as a political tool.
But we look at Nyota, but forget that even when the government was getting in, we had the Hustler Fund, Hustler Fund and Nyota Fund is pretty much the same thing, just different names. But let's look at individuals who took Hustler Fund and what they ought to have done with that, become entrepreneurs, use that money to grow their businesses, pay back and keep on getting it as a loan. But what happened to it? Over 50 billion shillings
the money that you saved,
spent. Where did it go?
Can I take a slightly different approach to this? Because Nyota Fund is one of many funds. There's many youth funds. Since I think the earliest fund was, is it Kazi kwa Vijana?
During COVID.
No.
Even before COVID.
There's one under the Kibaki, I think, was it in 2008 or was it towards the 2013 election, the earliest. And the World Bank was involved. And even then, we argued that this is assistentialist. It is an economy that's not creating jobs. Then you create a fund to support young people. Now, it's good to support young people, but like you said, you want to support young people for enterprise. So the question becomes, why is the economy not creating and supporting youth employment and youth enterprise? Those are the issues